If you want to strip human survival down to its rawest form, don't start with tools or hunting, start with sleep. Long before permanent shelters, before stone walls or even dependable caves, early humans still had to close their eyes every night without being eaten, frozen, or driven off by weather. Sleep was honestly the most dangerous part of the day. You are immobile, unconscious, and defenseless. The fact that early humans survived this phase at all tells us something crucial. They did not wander until exhaustion took them. They chose sleeping places carefully, using landscape, vegetation, and social structure as substitutes for architecture. What follows is not speculation built on romance, but a pattern that appears again and again in archaeology, primatology, and survival biology. They began by avoiding the ground whenever possible. Tree-based sleeping did not vanish with our ape ancestors. Early hominins likely used elevated sleeping positions long after they could walk upright. Modern primates do this to avoid predators, insects, and ground dampness, and there is no reason to assume early humans abandoned an effective strategy overnight. Large branches, forked trees, and sloped trunks offered platforms where a group could cluster. Height reduced risk more than any wall could. The modern application is straightforward. Elevation matters. Even a small rise off the ground reduces exposure to predators, cold air pooling, and moisture. When trees were not available, terrain selection replaced height. Early humans slept on slopes, ridgelines, and natural rises rather than valley floors. Cold air settles in low areas, so do insects and predators following water sources. Sleeping slightly uphill provided warmth and visibility. Archaeological sites show repeated occupation of such locations, suggesting they were preferred resting places rather than random camps. For modern survivalists, this translates into choosing sleeping sites above drainage zones and cold sinks, even when building nothing at all. Vegetation was used as both bedding and barrier. Grasses, reeds, leaves, and branches were layered beneath and around sleepers. This served multiple functions. It insulated from ground cold, reduced moisture transfer, and created a physical and sensory barrier against crawling insects and snakes. Some plants, when crushed, release oils that deter pests. This is not guesswork. Ethnographic studies show continued use of such plants in hunter-gatherer societies. Applying this today involves identifying dry, fibrous plant material and using it thickly beneath the body before considering any overhead cover. So, social sleeping arrangements actually replace the need for walls and doors. Early humans would sleep in groups, often forming these circular or semicircular patterns. The adults would position themselves on the outside, making sure that children and anyone vulnerable were safely tucked inside. This setup, boosted everyone's collective awareness. If one person started to move, well, everyone else would notice and stir too. The point wasn't just about being strong, it was about making noise, moving together, and having numbers on your side. Interestingly, modern wilderness safety studies back this up. Groups are way less likely to be attacked than individuals, and honestly, that lesson is still relevant whenever you're in a high-risk environment. Fire, when it was around, wasn't always at the center of things. Early humans used fire in a pretty sporadic and opportunistic way. Before people could reliably make fire, they actually slept without flames more often than with them. So instead, they'd look for spots near natural windbreaks. Things like rock outcrops, fallen trees, or thick vegetation. These natural features helped cut down on heat loss and kept the weather at bay. Today, the modern equivalent is using the landscape itself for shelter instead of building complicated structures that take up a lot of time and energy. Sleep timing was a big part of survival too. Early humans probably slept in shorter bursts, with people taking turns being lightly asleep or alert. Some traditional societies still do this actually. Continuous deep sleep, that's really a luxury you get when you feel safe. Fragmented sleep, on the other hand, boosted survival chances when there wasn't much shelter. So, for us today, it kind of suggests that staying a little bit vigilant, even if it's not perfect, is way better than just assuming you're safe when you might not be. Body orientation really mattered. People slept curled up, reducing the surface area exposed to the elements. Extremities were always tucked inward, and bodies were positioned to face away from the prevailing winds. These are instinctive behaviors, just reinforced by experience. Anyone camping without shelter today will find that the same positions just, well, kinda emerge naturally as the temperature drops. What really stands out across all these strategies is intentionality. Early humans didn't wait for shelters to exist before they could sleep safely. Instead, they used what the environment offered and honestly, substituted knowledge for construction. Elevation replaced walls, vegetation replaced bedding, social structure replaced doors, and terrain, well, that replaced roofs. For historians, this actually challenges the assumption that shelter was a prerequisite for expansion. Humans spread across continents long before architecture ever came into play, and for survivalists, it's a reminder that the first shelter isn't built, it's chosen. If you value this kind of grounded look at how humans survived before technology stepped in, subscribe to Strange History, share this with someone who thinks survival begins with gear, and keep studying the past. Our ancestors slept safely long before they built anything permanent, and, honestly, they left us the blueprint.